Hey, peace, world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. Entertainment wise, just a quick note on that. One of my favorite MCs, Sky Zoo from Brooklyn, New York. He has a project coming up called Retropolitan with exclusively produced by Pete Rock from Pete Rock and CL Smooth fame. Pete Rock is a legendary producer, beats for part of Illmatic, one of the primary producers on there. Obviously, Mecca and the Soul Brother was a very well received, critically acclaimed album, and it's kind of when Pete Rock emerged as that was probably when he was at the height really of his production career, and he scored some different singles here and there. I don't think he's done a whole lot with Jay-Z individually, but he did have the track on Watch the Throne or whatever it was. I would get into that because while he's one of my favorites, and he's done a couple of different collaboration projects and everything. Yeah, I think they did two complete records with CL Smooth, and then I think they might have had a little EP that was out there too. But anyway, I won't get into my full thought on that. Anyway, these two guys got together for this album. I think they recorded it in like a handful of weeks. It's just been getting mixed and it's been getting prepped. But Sky Zoo put a teaser out there on his, I think his Instagram page might be Sky Zoo the Writer. But that's out there, a snippet of a song called It's All Good, I think. And the whole song is on YouTube, actually. You can, if you look for it, It's All Good. You can listen to the whole song. But he just had the snippet over there. I think he had the cover art for Retropolitan. It's New York Knick themed in a way with this color scheme and whatnot. But it's just capping off a very good year for music, for older traditional hip hop, if you will. There is another. Oh, and then Ghostface, I think has a release date for his upcoming album, and I'm mentioning that because, like I said, if you've seen the first two videos from that project, Party Over Here and Conditioning, you've seen that he's, even though he's an older guy, gotta be early to mid 40s. Tons of a deep catalog. It's interesting to see a guy with that tenure. I'll say tenure, with him doing some really new and fresh stuff. Putting out some fresh content in terms of the really just stepping it up. If you've been in this game for 20 years, you should be doing big things on a proper scale, I would say. Obviously, he can't do things on a scale that Jay-Z could because he hasn't had those types of record sales and whatnot. But I definitely like the rollout to that album. It's called Ghostface Killers, and I think that one is coming out in the second week of September. So that's a little bit of that. I think I'm gonna also do a recap maybe of the show called Pearson, starring Gina Torres. It airs on USA. Again, I watch it on demand, so I couldn't tell you what night it really comes on. I want to say Wednesday, maybe, but I think I'm gonna do some recaps of it. I like kind of where the story is going, and it's kind of starting to open up a little bit more to be what it's gonna be, I guess. But let's get to some bite down boxing thoughts. With me kind of not being on the Team Left Jab network anymore, where I was doing the audio only podcast, with that no longer being available, I still want to do some kind of podcast, but I don't know if paying money to have a second audio only presence is really worth the money. It's not really enough interaction, enough feedback from the podcast to really do that, even though that is kind of my favorite format, my favorite medium. So I'm trying to think of how to do it. So I haven't been able to talk about Saturday's big fight this past Saturday with Orozco, Antonio Orozco, and Golden Boy's future, Virgil Ortiz Jr. I thought it was a good coming out party for him in terms of him getting on the mic and talking. I liked his vibe. I like his, he's a pretty serious cat. And I really didn't know too much. What the hell's going on about out here? I didn't know too much about him. Personally, I didn't know much about his personality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But now listening to the guy speak, he seems to be really marketable, in my opinion. He was down to earth. He was critical of himself, of his effort, even though it was an exciting win. It was a fight with an explosive ending. He took away some. He needs to be more focused, and he had some things that he admitted that he needed to work on. So I thought that was cool. Getting into the fight though, he stays coiled. If you look at the way that he positions his feet and the rhythm that he has in his body and kind of how he aligns himself, he stays like tightly coiled to explode with his 1-2. And that's kind of like his signature attack move, in my opinion. But he can also, once he gets inside, he also easily switches off into some combinations and mixes it up quite a bit. So it's not limited to that 1-2. And that was my thing with watching him and moving forward. Where do I see him in 2 or 3 years? It's a difference in being a basic fighter and being fundamentally sound with good power and being crisp and having all those other attributes, endurance, stamina, a certain level of defensive prowess, etc., etc. I wanted to see that he wasn't like basic, and he's not. I don't think he is. And one of his another signature aspect of his game is he throws a lot of power shots. He's aggressive. He throws a lot of shots with bad intentions. It's not a lot of throwaway punches, and that's gonna have an effect on your endurance. Is constantly punching hard. And it's going to be some guys that make him move and don't let him get his feet settled. And he's going to have to figure out, how to add some softer stuff, throw in some off-speed pitches. But anyway, getting into the fight, man, he had that quick start. He was bombing away. I felt like he thought he had a smaller guy in front of him in height. And as far as that was Orozco's first time up at 147 pounds too. So I thought he tried to take it to him. And he had that sequence in there where he did get him up against the ropes, had him ducking really low, and it looked like he might put him away. But once they went back and showed that in slow motion, that was some pretty good work from Orozco under duress, under bad duress in the man's hometown. He came out of that relatively in relatively good shape. And kind of showed what Ortiz Jr. was up against. So anyway, it gets into the second round, and second through the fourth, fifth rounds and whatnot. And Orozco was doing fairly well. I wouldn't say that Virgil Ortiz ever really lost control of the fight, but I thought Orozco did a great job of mixing it up. His entrance into the pocket, the way that he was getting through the front door, he was mixing it up nicely, and had Ortiz guessing, where the punches were coming from. Is it this overhand right? Is it the left hook to the body? I mean, he was was throwing some nice combinations that he needed to be defensively responsible to to not get clipped in there. And but like I said, I don't think he ever fully lost control of the fight. He just kind of hit a bit of a lull for a minute, kind of figuring out something from a veteran fighter, from a seasoned fighter. So I thought it was a good learning period. You know, you fighting against guys like Herrera and some of these other guys. Herrera was so slow that night in his last fight, and just didn't have his legs and no sharpness on his punches, anything. So I thought he saw a guy in here that had a couple different dimensions to his game, and it took a minute to decipher what was going on and to solve that puzzle. That fifth round, though, Orozco has a good fourth and fifth round. He's rallying pretty good. He's bloodied up his nose. And then, what's his name comes back out in the sixth. Ortiz Jr. comes back out in the sixth, gets back on being the boss and imposing his will and his advantages, and just blows away Orozco. Just pounds him out pretty much and overwhelms him. 3 knockdowns. Referee stops in at the 216 mark and waves it off. I thought it was a pretty good refereeing job. The left hook that started the trouble for Orozco was just well placed. Good hand-eye coordination, and to go in and get the finish, I thought he executed that very well. I was kind of surprised that Orozco didn't try to clinch more, didn't try any veteran tactics, to waste some time, getting tangled up and whatnot. He kind of tried to get tangled up a little bit and like have the referee need to come in and sort it out and all of that. But then he kind of just made up his mind to hell with it, just go out in a blaze of glory. And once he started trying to open up again, is when Ortiz Jr. caught him and knocked him down that third time. And like I said, the referee stepped in and waved it off. Exciting fight. Good matchup, good performance from Orozco. He stays around and gets more money. I wouldn't mind Orozco and Adrian Broner, to be honest with you. I saw Broner talking to Robert Garcia on a clip online, talking about that he'd F Jose Ramirez up. I don't know if I agree with that. Not saying that Ramirez washes him, but don't underestimate Ramirez, especially with his volume and his consistency and his work rate. We already know what the story is on AB. Look, let me get ready to get on off here. I didn't even mean to drag it out this long. But just an update on the whole Andy Ruiz situation with the rematch that was slated for and announced by Matchroom and Eddie Hearn for Saudi Arabia. I saw a behind the glove video, and I knew this was coming. I believe it's on Andy Ruiz's Instagram page is what it looked like live from that. And he said that the fight's not going to happen over there. And I think his silence for the last 96 hours was probably already indicative of that. And one of my partners that hollers at me on Twitter was talking about money and how Andy Ruiz deserves more money. I'm not disputing. I'm not going to say he deserves. I think he has a claim for more money, and he should argue for more money. I don't know if he has any grounds for that, despite new money being up for grabs here. I won't go into my analogy on that, but my thought was that he didn't even want to fight in Saudi Arabia, period. It's a site situation, maybe with some money in there too, but it's more the site. And on this particular clip that I watched, he did come out and say that he's not fighting in Saudi Arabia. He doesn't want to fight in Saudi Arabia, or the fight won't take place in Saudi Arabia. And he insists that he's going to call the shots here. I don't see how that happens. I'm not going to get into all of that right now. Like I said, that contract that he signed from the first fight probably has some terms and some language in it that, if we go down, if he doesn't play ball within reason, this thing probably goes to the courts. It probably goes the litigious route, and we'll go from there. But look, good for him to kind of come out and speak on it. I don't think Boxing Scene or many of the other outlets really had a piece on that just yet. This was just something from his live stream, interacting directly with his fans and whatnot. I think he was on an airplane. But anyway, let me get on out of here, man. Have a fantastic day. My name is Wood. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit a like button if you care for the way that I put anything out there, or the topics that I was discussing. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Bite down, boxing. Don't ever let them count you out. Peace.